from the Workplace Ninja Summit in Lucerne. Highlights, insights, and simply interesting talks. This is the Workplace Ninja Podcast.
And we're back on day 2 of the Workplace Ninja Summit here in Lucerne with the recordings with people who are attending sessions, but also people presenting sessions. And I have 2 other people from Microsoft on the table. My name is Frans Oudendorp and my co-host Alex.
Hi, good morning.
Welcome. It's really early.
It is super early. Can we mention that?
It's 8:15. And we start the first recording. Luckily, we have some Microsoft folks on the table. So Maayan and Ron, welcome on the show.
Thank you. Hello.
Thank you, Frans. Thank you, Alex, for having us. Exciting to be here.
Yeah, and I think we're talking about some security stuff because you're both on the security teams in Microsoft. You're presenting sessions here in Lucerne. What makes excites you to be here on this event?
Yeah.
And the view is an answer, right? So the view that we have right now, is an answer to the country.
Oh my goodness, can our viewers see it? It's gorgeous. So I am personally excited because this is my first Ninja Summit. I love seeing the atmosphere, the energy, meeting the people. Also, personally, I have been at Microsoft for almost 15 years now, I can't believe it. And before working in Defender, I worked at SCCM, Configman, and Intune. And so seeing a lot of familiar faces here, it feels like one big reunion. This is a fun event.
Yeah. How is it for you, Ron?
That's right. First of all, first time for me in Switzerland, so it's awesome. And the chance to meet all of you guys, MVPs, and everyone who can share feedback, discuss security items. So I'm excited.
And your role, the role that you play in the Defender for Cloud Apps, what is that especially? Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can go first. I'm general manager for Defender for Cloud Apps, so the Defender for Cloud Apps product group. For those not familiar with the product, Defender for Cloud Apps is kind of literally that's what it is all about, helping organizations protect interactions with SaaS applications, with applications in the cloud. It is part of the Defender suite, part of XDR.
And I'm leading the product group for Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. Nice. Everything that has to do with shadow IT discovering cloud applications, protecting them with security posture capabilities, reducing the attack surface, and threat protection capabilities.
MCAS. I still used to say you saw her face. She was like, no.
We need to get that out.
Has gone a long way. What are you guys currently focused on? It was such a energy development and also journey, and now the product is integrating so well within the family. That's I bet a lot of work that is lying behind you. What are you guys focused on now?
So it's interesting because the market is evolving. I mean, traditionally we were a CASB product, and
right.
There's a lot of changes. CASB is now part of the SSE market, and we are transitioning towards a cyber threat protection type of product. So specifically aiming on how to secure interactions with SaaS applications that not necessarily focusing on access scenarios, not necessarily focusing on DLP scenarios, but more focusing on security posture and threat protection capabilities. So we're now in the transition and providing more and more value in those domains.
So if I can add, if you look at protecting organizations from threat, the way we see it, and that's not going to sound surprising, there are 3 pieces to it, right? There is discovery, like what applications are in use, what are my users doing, what are non-human identities doing in terms of interacting with applications. And then, so that's part 1, that's discovery. Then there is posture, optimizing the security posture for the organization. So what are some misconfigurations or recommendations tailored to my specific organization around posture of applications that will help prevent the next attack. And then finally, of course, there is threat protection in a sense of detecting attacks as early as they happen and then alerting, stopping, and preventing the next one. So this set of 3 areas, which is very common in XDR and Defender in general. Discovery, prevention, protection is what the product revolves around.
And as more and more organizations are moving their general application landscape to the cloud, I assume the threat landscape is also increasing. Can you tell a little bit about your insights around that?
Yeah, I can start, and then I'm sure Ron can add. So this is actually very interesting. When we look at the threat landscape in general, we're seeing some interesting trends and specific trends as they relate to applications or to SaaS applications. And I'll start with some trends that set context. So one is, it's not going to surprise any of our viewers to hear, is the use of applications and data in the cloud is growing constantly, and especially post-pandemic, right? We are seeing more users, more use cases, more data, more industries relying on SaaS for their business. I'll add more to that. It's no longer just users interacting with applications, with OAuth, with APIs. We see more and more of what's called the application mesh, applications talking to one another to paint an end-to-end value proposition. So that's just in terms of what is out there. There are so many applications out there, and even just understanding what you have, that's one. 2 is, of course, Gen AI that is impacting SaaS as it is impacting everything that we do these days. And Gen AI applications, in some sense, you could look at them and say, well, this is a SaaS application. It's a special type of SaaS application. They do introduce additional challenges to security teams because of the breadth. It's so easy to add a Gen AI application, an extension, a bot. You don't have to be a developer. So the numbers, the volume is huge. And then in terms of the attack surface itself, there are new threats involved. Model contamination, etc. So that's just in terms of the context and the opportunities there. In terms of the attack landscape itself, there are interesting trends. So if 3 years ago, the focus for attacks that we have observed at Microsoft was really on-prem, right? It was really on-prem, the servers, the network, the endpoints. 2 years ago-ish, we started seeing an interesting shift to hybrid on-prem cloud attacks, more and more, right? I mean, not surprising with the overall trend in the industry, but definitely could see that. In the last, I want to say year and a half, the additional volume of cloud-only and SaaS-based attacks is overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And it started with very sophisticated attackers, nation-state type of attackers.
The big ones?
The big ones, the ones that had the resources to create these new techniques. We're seeing them more prevalent now in cybercrime organizations as well. The techniques are very similar. The end goal could vary, right? It could be data exfiltration, token theft. It could be ransomware. It could be, any of the end goals that we are familiar with. But the way to get there is unique in the sense that it does not involve, in many cases, any on-prem components. It's easy for attackers to get there. And the sophisticated techniques that we've seen from nation states at first are now replicated by many attackers.
No.
Add to that Gen AI, right? Because Gen AI obviously is not only used by us defenders.
Right.
It is
By the
used
good
by
ones.
Exactly. And we were saying, you can imagine their meetings sitting and thinking, how can we? Well, what creative things can we do with Gen AI to leverage the technology to simplify and to scale the attacks. So it's a very interesting set of trends that we are observing, and Defender for Cloud Apps is very tailored in its current value proposition and in the roadmap to address exactly this type of attack with specific focus on OAuth applications and the attack surface that they introduce.
And I want to double click on the OAuth landscape. And one thing, or a few things that organizations needs to understand is that those applications or OAuth applications, non-human identities, they will have access to the most critical assets in the organization, to the most critical crown jewels. And to think that organizations will allow that to happen without applying security controls in place, without monitoring these interactions, it's mind-blowing. And more than that, even if these are legitimate applications that are accessing your environment, it's really, really easy for a bad actor to change a legitimate application and transition it to a non-legitimate application, to compromise that, and then you have a bad actor inside of your environment. And we all know about the concerns with email phishing campaigns. And now think about how easy it is to apply OAuth phishing campaigns. And most likely, most of the users inside of these organizations don't actually know what they consent when they see this consent page. They don't even understand that that's a third party gaining access to the environment. So it's really easy for malicious actor to exploit it. And that's why it's super, super important to apply those security controls in place.
What we see nowadays is the multi-factor on admin portals that will be active in, what was it? I think half of October, 16th of October, that will be active. That is for normal user accounts. But we still have the ability to use OAuth applications to give a consent and to access the crown jewels in that kind of way. So we need to protect that with other applications as well. And Defender for Cloud Apps can play a role in that.
Absolutely. And this goes back to, we talked about discovery. Again, it's not just about what my users are using. It's what are the OAuth applications that have access to resources and applications in my organization. And then again, posture and threat protection. I'm moving the table here. And similar principles apply when it comes to posture. You want to make sure that you have the visibility to misconfigurations in your OAuth applications, right? As well as drift control, ongoing continuous evaluation, and early detection of attacks when they happen, because they will happen. We always assume breach.
And how many admins are accepting and consenting on applications where they don't read well, don't know what they are doing. So I think awareness around that topic should be there as well.
And this is why we always tell our customers that they should continuously monitor these applications, these interactions, and start reducing the attack surface by removing those unnecessary interactions. And you can do that by just reviewing those applications with high privileges, or removing those applications that are coming from a non-verified publisher, because who knows who's behind it, or removing unused applications. If you gave a consent to an application and it's sitting in your environment for 2 years and not doing anything, why should it still be there? It's just yet another door for the bad actor to exploit. So you need to remove all of these interactions.
But what we see in this way is that we need to interact with other products as well, because we can protect and give insights with Defender for Cloud Apps, but to make people aware, we need probably Defender for Office with the attack simulation to make people aware of what they are doing. So how is that interaction going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So Defender for Cloud Apps, as you point out, is part of the Defender Sentinel family, right? When we think of XDR, it's more than just giving that additional insight to domains like Office, like Endpoint, like Cloud. The correlation of signals really allows us to provide high confidence when detecting attacks, definitely when disrupting, right? If we want to disrupt an attack early, we need to be very, very confident. And our researchers are working with all these signals across Defender product in order to provide this high correlation in accuracy. More than that, when you investigate an attack, you have this complete view. Because it's never one thing, exactly as you point out, Frans. It's never just the application. There is an identity. There could be an on-prem piece to it. There could be a cloud piece to it. Definitely, we talked about email exfiltration and so on, Office. Combining these signals together and providing defenders the end-to-end experience to investigate is key Similarly, when we talk about posture management, right, with exposure management, very similarly, if we want to look at a potential attack path and configurations, you want to make sure that you have the end-to-end kill chain.
We gave an example in our session yesterday, a simple alert that will be based on interaction with Copilot, for example. Just by itself, it could be just a lot of noise, because who knows if it's a malicious interaction or not. But combining this together with signals coming from the user, maybe it's a risky user, or maybe it has a vulnerable device that can be exploited. And combining all of this together will increase the SNR, the signal-to-noise ratio, because you have more confidence that this is indeed an attack and not just an anomaly or not just unusual activity.
Yeah. Talking about the sessions that you're doing, that you're presenting here on the Workplace Ninja Summit, what is the main takeaway that you want participants, attendees will leave when the session ends? What is the main takeaway that they get with this?
So one of the things that I would really, really want the audience to understand is, again, the transition and the efforts that we're putting around SaaS cyber threat protection. The CASB market is well defined. They all know how and what to use when they're talking about CASB. A lot of those customers, a lot of the audience are not familiar with the new value that Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps is providing around SSPM, around threat protection, around OAuth security. And that's what I want the audience to start understanding.
We did a show of hands yesterday when we started the session, asking folks, after we went over similar ideas to what we talked about here with the landscape and the opportunities and the risks out there. And we asked, how comfortable are people feeling today in their organization that they're well protected around this type of attack? How many of you are very comfortable or feeling confident with the processes and the knowledge that you have in place? How many of you are fairly confident? We had 0 hands for the very confident, and we had 1 in the entire room for fairly confident. So the risk is there, and definitely, when we talk to our customers at Defender for Cloud Apps, that piece of understanding the risk, understanding where the attack landscape is at, and how quickly it is evolving is key to establishing the right processes in the organization to be better protected.
100%. And how will, or maybe even does already, AI fill into that product? How does that story, fulfill with AI?
So first of all, our main mission statement today is to secure AI interaction, and that's the main focus. But we also utilize behind-the-scene AI capabilities to help our product, and that's part of the main XDR suite. Again, correlation of different alerts to an incident. We also plan to add some value on top of Copilot for security to help the SOC analysts to get better insights from all of the data that they get. So this is also a focus area for us. Other than that,
in terms of what's in product, Ron was touching on that. Last year at Ignite, we announced the capability to discover several hundreds of Gen AI applications with Defender for Cloud Apps.
Right.
So again, we talked about discovery in order to be able to assess the risk in your own organization, and to maybe have to set some policies in place for what Gen AI applications users can or cannot use. You have to have that visibility, right? So Defender for Cloud Apps today has the ability to give organizations a view of what all Gen AI apps are used by their organization. Right. That is one. And then on top of that, there are specific detections in place for potentially malicious use of Gen AI. Because again, we talked about this earlier, the potential damage that an attacker can do with Gen AI is huge, right? Yep. And so a specific example for detection in product today is if a risky user, if a user that is known to be of high risk, is interacting with Copilot in a way that is suspicious in accessing highly sensitive information, for instance, financial data, that would trigger an alert. The thing is, tuning these detections is challenging because, everybody uses Gen AI in creative ways. It's hard to assess what is malicious, what is malicious intent, which goes back again to your point, Frans, which goes to if we take a potentially malicious interaction with Copilot and then add to that a user identity that we know is risky, that gives higher confidence.
Right.
And that is the type of detections that is in product today.
Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, I call Defender for Cloud Apps sometimes the Swiss knife now in Switzerland. It's the oil between different other products as well. We don't talk about the interaction, the integrations that we have with Edge for Business, for example, with the endpoint to protect all the cloud apps that we're using. So I think Defender for Cloud Apps, we are talking about protecting all what cloud apps and all the other stuff that's coming in. But there's also more that is within the product. It's not only the things we are talking about. I think it's also broader than we only have that bit of small time to talk about, but there's more. And I think Defender for Cloud Apps can play a big role in the whole ecosystem with protecting cloud apps that we are using as our own and business, but also probably cloud apps that we don't try to use, but users are accessing SaaS applications easily. And that easy that admins don't have the insights always. And I think that's with the shadow IT part, that is where it all starts with. And then luckily we're extending the product at the moment with all the capabilities that we talked about.
Sounds like a perfect summary.
That's it. I think that we are mostly done with this recording. Is there one takeaway that you have from this venue, from this event, or whatever?
First of all, it's still going. We still have 2 more days, so let's see what happens.
The security keynote is coming, so the most.
And we talked already with Ramya on this table. So
Ran is going to be on stage with Ramya, doing some fun demos. So definitely stay tuned.
Looking forward,
looking forward. Thanks for joining in this recording. If you are looking forward to all the other recordings, please like and subscribe this video, this podcast, and stay tuned for more information. Thanks.
Thank you for having us.
very much.